Looked at Mark, then at Bobby. My mind was racing. This wasn't me, I wasn't a dealer. But I wasn't blind, either. Money was tight, and this could fix a lot of problems fast. That night, I lay awake next to Jenny, staring at the ceiling. Her soft breathing should have been comforting, but all I could hear was the math running through my head. The hospital bills, the car repair, the rent, the temptation was sharp, like a knife pressing against my resolve. It was exactly what I needed, too perfect to be safe. The next morning, I showed up for my shift at the pizza shop, my decision still hanging in the air. Mark gave me a knowing smirk as he handed me the schedule. Bobby nodded at me, and Vanessa, for the first time, looked away. I didn't have an answer yet, but I knew one thing. The clock was ticking, and the bills weren't going to stop. Chapter Title 4, Bound by Budget. The buzz of the alarm jolted me awake, its grating sound cutting through the precious few hours of sleep I'd managed to steal. I rubbed my eyes, glancing at Jenny, who lay propped up in bed with Cece fussing over her like a nurse on double duty. Rose's tiny cries echoed from the bassinet. It was a reminder of why I pushed so hard to make ends meet, but no matter how much I worked, the bills seemed to grow faster than Rose did. I dragged myself to the kitchen, calculating numbers in my head. Car repairs had gutted our savings, and the credit card bill mocked me every time I logged into the bank app. Jenny's soft voice interrupted my spiraling thoughts. "You're doing too much, Rashim," she said, her hand on my arm. "But, we need it, I hate that we do." I kissed her forehead and left for work, her words following me like a shadow. The afternoon pizza shop shift was no better. The constant clang of dishes and the acrid smell of burnt cheese was enough to drive anyone mad, but the real storm was brewing in the kitchen. Mark leaned against the counter, his usual smirk replaced with a scowl. Bobby, red-faced and sweating, avoided eye contact. "You got my money, Bobby?" Mark asked, voice low but dangerous. "I told you I'm good for it," Bobby stammered, flipping a pizza onto the oven rack. Mark didn't buy it. He slammed his fist on the counter, rattling a stack of plates. The room tensed. "You think I run a charity?" Mark hissed. "You pay, or we'll have a bigger problem." I kept my head down, focusing on the dough in front of me. Mark's temper was like a lit fuse, and I wasn't trying to get caught in the explosion. Later, during the break, Mark cornered me. "Hey, Rashim," he said, leaning in like we were old friends. "We're hitting the festival next weekend. Easy run, you in." I shook my head before he even finished. "Nah, man, I can't," I said. "I got too much on my plate already." "Too much on your plate, or not enough cash in your pocket?" Mark shot back, smirking. "Think about it, a quick trip, big payday. No one's asking you to do anything crazy." The offer lingered in the air, tempting and toxic. I forced a laugh and walked away, but his words clung to me like smoke. That night, the tension boiled over. Mark cornered Bobby again, and this time, fists flew. Pizza boxes toppled, the smell of pepperoni mingling with blood and sweat as Mark knocked Bobby to the ground. Vanessa appeared, her calm presence a sharp contrast to the chaos. She handed Bobby an ice pack and then turned to me with a sly smile. "You're too straight-laced for this place," she teased, holding out a small, colorful pill. I stared at the ecstasy pill in her palm. I'd never tried anything like that before, but the weight of everything, debt, exhaustion, responsibility, pressed down on me. "Come on," she coaxed. "It'll help you unwind." I took it. The pill felt like a spark, a momentary escape from the relentless grind. But as it dissolved on my tongue, I couldn't help but wonder what I was dissolving along with it. My principles, my sense of control, my future. Chapter 5. A Queen's Perspective. Denton, MD, Deep Shore Road, 2 weeks before the festival. The road to my mother's house felt longer than usual. The gentle hum of the tires against the asphalt couldn't drown out the swirling thoughts in my head. Bills piled up on the kitchen counter, and Jenny's recovery was slow but steady, thanks to Cece's help. Rose needed more than I could currently give, and every solution felt like a band-aid on a bullet wound. When I arrived, Medea was sitting on her porch in her favorite rocking chair, sipping a cup of sweet tea. Her face lit up at the sight of me, though her eyes carried a weight of worry I couldn't ignore. "Hey, Ma," I said, trying to force a smile. She gestured me over with that knowing look, the one that said she already knew something was on my mind. "Come here, boy, sit down. What's eating at you?" The talk. As I sat down, the words spilled out. I told her about the mounting rent, the car repairs that wiped out our savings, and the unrelenting costs of being a new parent. I tried to paint a picture of someone just trying to keep his family afloat, but even as I spoke, I could feel her reading between the lines. "Rashim," she said, her voice steady and warm, "you're running yourself ragged, trying to do it all on your own. Have you tried waiting in silence, listening for God's answer?" I sighed, my frustration bubbling just beneath the surface. "Ma, I respect that, I do, but God doesn't pay the bills. Rose can't be safe right now with faith alone. Money supports us, it's the only thing keeping us above water." She shook her head, her gaze steady. "You're wrong. Money's just a tool, the power to provide, to make a way, that's already within you. But you've got to trust God to guide your steps. You think you're in control, but you're not, baby." Quote. The ask. I hesitated before I spoke. "I need $300, I said finally. "I swear I'll pay you back. Triple, even." Quote. Her brow furrowed, and for a moment, she just looked at me. I could tell she wasn't convinced by my promise. "What's this money for, Rashim?" Quote. I scrambled for words. "It's an investment. I've got a way to make it work first for Rose." Quote. She leaned back in her chair, her hands folded tightly around her cup. "Baby, it sounds like you're chasing something dangerous. Money's got your heart in its grip, and I'm scared of what it's gonna cost you." Quote. Her words stung, but I couldn't back down now. "Ma, this is my chance to get ahead. Just this once." Quote. The resolution. After a long silence, she nodded. "All right, I'll give you the money." Quote. Relief washed over me, but before I could thank her, she reached out and grabbed my hands. "But I need to pray over it first." Quote. She closed her eyes, her voice steady and strong as she prayed. Lord, I ask you to guide my son. Protect him from harm and open his eyes to see your power and purpose. Bless this money, not for worldly gain, but as a lesson, a seed that grows wisdom and faith in him. Quote. Her words hung in the air as she handed me the cash. This is my last $300, Rashim. I'm giving it to you not for profit, but because I believe in you. Don't let me down, son. Quote. Aftermath. I left her house with the money clutched tightly in my hand and a knot in my chest. That night, I bought $300 worth of pills and sold them all within hours. The next day, $500 turned into $800. By the end of the week, I had $1,300 in my pocket. Success felt intoxicating, but Medea's words lingered. Money's got your heart in its grip. I didn't want to think about what it might cost me in the end. Back at her house, Medea sat on the porch, phone in hand. He's gonna need us, she told my stepdad. Maybe it's time to bring him into the fold. Quote. Chapter 6. Money Mask. July 1-13, 2005 Salisbury to West Virginia. The cash felt heavy in my pocket, even though it wasn't there for long. $4,000, more than I'd ever had at once, and still it felt like I was barely keeping up. I handed Jenny just enough to catch up on rent and keep Rose's daycare paid through the month. The rest, reinvested. Pills were my ticket out of survival mode, and the music festival was about to be my biggest score yet. Mark had hooked me up with another batch earlier that week, this time, a fat supply of pills at $13 a pop. He promised me they'd move like water at the festival. At $25, maybe $30 each, the math was simple, this could set me up for months. I ignored the knot in my stomach that came with stacking risk on top of risk. Money dulled the nerves. Let's roll, y'all, Mark called as he packed up the backseat of Bobby's car. The plan was simple. Drive overnight, crash at some cheap motel in West Virginia, then hit the festival early to set up shop. Vanessa climbed in beside me, her perfume mixing with the stale fast food smell from Bobby's backseat. She flashed a smile, always eager to align herself with me rather than Mark. I could feel her watching me as I counted out some cash for gas and snacks, already imagining herself riding shotgun on whatever wave I was catching. The trip started loud. Rolling battle raps and bad jokes bounced off the car walls as Bobby barreled down the highway. I kept my focus on the bag stashed beneath my seat. Pills didn't just represent profit, they represented responsibility. Rose needed more than just prayers to keep a roof over her head and food on the table. Jenny might not have said it, but I knew my hustle made her uneasy. By the time we hit Hagerstown, the energy had shifted. The laughter in the car faded as the miles stretched on West Virginia's dark stretches of highway swallowed us whole, the town spaced out, their lights faint and flickering. We stopped at a diner just before dawn, a low-budget spot with faded booths and walls lined with kitschy Americana. The minute we walked in, I could feel it. Eyes tracked us from behind menus, forks pausing midair. A couple at the counter whispered to each other, their gazes darting toward me, then away. Yo, is it just me, or? I trailed off, scanning the room. Nah, it's not just you, Vanessa muttered. Her playful edge was gone, her posture stiffer. Mark shrugged, unaffected. Relax, man, we're just here to eat. It wasn't just the stares. It was the quiet way the waitress asked, where you folks from? As if the answer carried weight. The way Bobby got a cold, sorry, no substitutions, when he asked for extra bacon on his breakfast plate. The way Vanessa's credit card got a double take before the machine spat out her receipt. I tried to act cool, like it didn't bother me, but it did. Back in the car, the tension lingered. Mark was humming some tune under his breath, unfazed. Bobby looked out the window, quiet. Vanessa scrolled through her phone, but her leg bounced nervously. What's the matter, Rashim? Mark asked, catching my expression in the rearview mirror. Just feels different out here, I said. Mark laughed. It's all in your head, man, ain't nobody thinking about you that hard. We're here for money, not to make friends. His words sat wrong with me, but I didn't argue. I couldn't afford to. Money was the goal. The plan was set. The pills in my bag would double my take-home, maybe triple. Whatever doubts I had could wait until after the festival. As the festival gates came into view later that morning, the knot in my stomach loosened just a bit. The promise of cash, loud music, and endless crowds drowned out the unease that had been following me all night. But deep down, I knew I was wearing a mask, one made of confidence and dollar signs. And masks could only hold for so long. Chapter 7. All Good July 14-16, 2005 West Virginia. West Virginia's hills rolled on forever, wrapping the festival grounds in a kind of cocoon. The air smelled like grass and sweat, pulsing with basslines and laughter. I'd never seen anything like it, thousands of people moving as one, all caught in some collective rhythm. All good, bro, someone called, handing me a beer as I passed. The phrase wasn't just a greeting here, it was a mantra. All good wasn't just the festival's name, it was a mindset. Mark disappeared early to make the drop, taking most of the stash with him. That left me with Vanessa and Bobby, who were already diving headfirst into the scene. Vanessa had swapped her usual edgy style for something straight out of Woodstock, fringes and face paint. Bobby, true to form, was just happy to have weed and a reason to avoid driving. Day 1. Business. My first night was all about business. The pills practically sold themselves. All I had to do was nod at the right people, and cash traded hands faster than I could pocket it. By the end of the night, my stash was lighter, my pockets heavier, and the buzz of quick money made it all feel easy. Mark was off somewhere, probably counting his cut. Vanessa danced her way through the crowd, carefree and already high. Bobby stayed close, his wide frame a welcome anchor in the chaos. All good? He asked as I counted my take. Better than good, I replied, trying to ignore the unease creeping in the back of my mind. Something about this place felt too open, too vulnerable. Day 2. Dancing and disappearing. By the second day, I let myself loosen up. The music was impossible to resist. One beat melted into the next, and soon I was caught in the crowd. Someone handed me a tab of Molly, and I didn't think twice before taking it. Vanessa was a blur of color and movement, her laugh ringing out as she pulled me deeper into the crowd. At some point, her shirt disappeared, and she danced topless under the stage lights like she'd been born for it. Come on, lighten up, she shouted, her face too close, her energy too wild. I tried to keep up, but the Molly hit harder than I expected. Colors bled together, and every touch felt electric. For a moment, I forgot about the pills, the cash, the risks. It was just music and bodies and movement. Then Vanessa disappeared. I didn't even see her leave. 1 second she was there, spinning and laughing, and the next, she was gone. I looked for her, but the crowd swallowed me whole. I started dancing. I was an awesome dancer. I made the crowd surround me. They put me on the big screen. I was allowed backstage. I was gone. My body moved as I took an introverted look inside of what I was doing. I was as a festival to make money and all I can do is dance. But was I slipped something? What did she give me that port? Mind goes in and out. Drums, dreads. Girls, temp, YT everywhere. Day 3. Everything slips. The third day unraveled fast. I woke up groggy, unsure of how I'd ended up sprawled in a stranger's tent. My head throbbed, and my mouth tasted like metal. You good? A voice asked. I wasn't sure how to answer. The day blurred in and out. People spoke, but their words tangled into nonsense. I'd try to focus, but my mind slipped away, thoughts spiraling out of control. By midday, I realized someone had drugged me. Whether it was from the molly or something slipped into my drink, I didn't know. All I knew was that I couldn't keep my grip on reality. At one point, I was sure everyone around me could hear my thoughts. They looked at me like they knew everything, every fear, every secret, every lie. The N-word hissed from somewhere behind me, and the crowd's laughter felt sharp and cutting. I tried to move, to leave, but my legs wouldn't cooperate. Every face looked like an enemy. The rescue. Yo, Rashim, over here. Bobby's voice cut through the haze. His broad frame felt like a lifeline as he guided me back to the car. Man, what happened to you? He asked, helping me into the passenger seat. I didn't have an answer. I just slumped against the seat, trying to piece together the fragments of the day. Mark and Vanessa showed up an hour later, both looking worse for wear but alive. No one asked questions, and no one offered answers. The drive back. By the time we hit a gas station in Hagerstown that night, the festival felt like a bad dream. I counted my money, but it didn't feel like a win. I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd barely made it out. All good? Bobby asked again, glancing at me in the rearview mirror. But deep down, I knew something had shifted. The festival had left its mark, and no amount of cash could make me forget it. Chapter 8, Holy Land. The gas station lights buzzed overhead, cutting through the heavy quiet of the night. It was July 16th, and I was standing in Hagerstown, somewhere between the high of the festival and the low of reality creeping back, and I rubbed my eyes, trying to clear the fog in my head. The all-good festival was over. The money had been made, but something was off. Mark was leaning against the van, Vanessa was fiddling with her phone, and Bobby was halfway through a joint in the driver's seat. They all looked like they had someplace to be, but for the first time, I didn't feel like I belonged with them. I'm going to stretch my legs, I said, more to myself than anyone else. Nobody looked up. I started walking. The road was dark, the gas station fading into the background as I wandered further. The buzz in my head was getting louder. Maybe it was the leftover effects of the molly or the exhaustion from the weekend. Or maybe it was something else. Then I heard a voice, not loud, but steady, saying, take off your shoes. This is Holy Land. I stopped in my tracks. Holy Land. I looked around, expecting to see someone, but there was only the road, the trees, and the night. The voice came again, calm but firm. Take off your shoes. I didn't argue. I bent down, pulled off my sneakers, and placed them neatly by the side of the road. My bare feet hit the ground, the coolness of the dirt sending a shiver through me. It felt right, like I was stepping into something bigger than myself. The woods seemed to open up as I walked, the trees parting like they knew I was coming. The ground was soft beneath my feet, and the voice, silent now, lingered in my mind. I wasn't sure where I was going, but I knew I had to keep moving. Eventually, I saw it, a house tucked away in the trees, its windows dark and its door slightly ajar. I hesitated. God will find you where you were if you only look, I whispered, more to convince myself than anything else. The door creaked as I pushed it open. The air inside was stale, but it felt safe. I found a couch in the corner and sat down, my head spinning as the events of the weekend caught up with me. I needed to do something, anything, to clear my mind. I grabbed a stack of papers from a nearby desk and started writing down the Bible verses I could remember. Each word felt like an anchor, pulling me back to solid ground. Elated, I went to the gas station. I was with God, in his house. They were not at the gas station. My shoes were gone and there was no trace of them. I could do nothing but retreat to the house that night after asking a few truckers for rides home. One gave me boots. When I woke up, sunlight was streaming through the windows. I stretched, my body sore but my mind clearer than it had been in days. I made my way back to the gas station, hoping to find the crew. But when I got there, the van was gone. They had left me. Mark had the money. Bobby had the ride. Vanessa had the connection. And I had nothing. Nothing but the feeling that maybe, just maybe, that was enough. I turned back toward the woods, the weight of abandonment heavy on my chest. But there was a strange peace in it too. God had brought me here, and somehow, I knew he wasn't done with me yet. That night, I learned that faith doesn't come from convenience. It comes when everything else is stripped away, when the money, the friends, and the security are gone, and all that's left is you and the quiet. And in that quiet, I found the beginnings of something real. Chapter 9. Unmasking the Truth. July 17, 2005, Hagerstown, MD. The morning sunlight crept through the cracked blinds of the abandoned house. I sat cross-legged on the dusty wooden floor, mumbling the remnants of last night's prayers. My body ached, my mind swirled, but I thanked God for getting me through another night. Whatever chaos lay ahead, I was convinced he had a plan. The peace didn't last long. Sirens cut through the quiet, and before I could gather my thoughts, the cops were outside. The barracks. Without hearing my rights to me, I was put in a cruiser and headed to the station. I believe I was in the sheriff's car. That let me know that this cop was the sheriff. Funny, I started thinking about that Bob Marley song. The music was still talking to me. I was still high in spirit. Once we reached the station, I asked the officer was I an undercover cop. He said yes and wiped his nose. I asked again, happy to hear the news, and he nodded and wiped his nose again. I was all about it. He took my fingerprints and my picture. I was then escorted to a cell and told that the guy in the cell next to me was arrested on a drug beef. His girlfriend was in a different cell also. I tried to get the guy to flip. I was holding a conversation trying to see what I could draw out of him. He told me he could not tell. It would put his brother in jeopardy. He was not going to turn his brother in. So, I tried to use my words through a door to reach him by threatening to do something sexual to his girl if he did not give us what we needed. This being my first interrogation, I did not want to leave with nothing, but he did not take the bait. Hours pass in silence. I was then taken to a different building and room. I was handcuffed. In front of me was in a large holding cell waiting to see the commish. I studied the room, could not sit down. I was moving toward what looked like a camera. I moved to where the camera could not see me. I climbed the stall in the cell. I was highly active. I was then taken to see the comic about my charges. She said I was facing 40 years for breaking and entering plus burglary. But I did not care. I was looking for her directly in her eyes. It was an almost uncanny blue. I have never seen anything like it in real life. I could tell that I was still an undercover cop. She was giving me energy to get through the test or whatever this was. She was fine. I just noodled and said yes when I was asked if I understood. The cop came and took me away again. This time it seemed to be a room in the same building. It was a small holding cell with 2 bunks in it. I was alone though. I could see others in other cells in groups. There was a trustee mopping and sweeping the floor. The guards were in the middle on an island able to watch everyone briefly. I started talking, more like preaching to myself loud enough for everyone to hear. I was feeding off the energy and the cell's people were cheering and making noise. It is hard to remember what I was saying because I was off on a tangent. I looked at the words, holding cell, changed to, molding cell. I was not scared of anything. I just did not want to blow my cover is all I knew that much. I was doing things in the cell knowing later they could make it look like what I was talking about to teach the next individuals they put in a molding cell. For the final hair I found a match under the bunk, made it look like I burned myself alive in my cell in protest. Funny way to wake life. I was feeling good. The library incident. I was then taken out of the molding cell and led toward a hallway. I passed the trustee and turned left. I could tell we were headed to a room that said library. I started to act agitated, like I did not want to go in the room. I figured if I got into a scuffle with the guards, they would play along, and the inmates would not think I was an undercover cop. When inside the room I exclaimed that I did not want to be in the room. No, I don't want to be in no library. The guard stepped up and pushed me, I think. I was still handcuffed in the front. I struck the guard in the face. I do not think he was ready. He did not turn as I hit him. It really connected his ear. Before I knew it, I was on the ground. I could feel more knees in my back, and they were pulling my hair. I was then maced at point blank range. This was a futuristic ass whopping. I could not move or see. All I could do was scream out, I quit. I am done. I heard a guard say, you like that? How about this? He then sprayed mace down my throat. It was the worst thing that I have ever experienced. Like having acid sit on your lounge and hurt as much as it should burn. This was a complete beat down. I was then picked up and dragged out the room and down the hall to an empty cell. I was uncuffed and left in the cell blind and unable to speak. Solitary voices, use the sink. Said a voice. I get up and start wiping my face. The mace was still hurting. I find the sink and start using it to clear my eyes out. I also rinsed my mouth out. Continually until I found my voice, and I realized that I sounded different. Fuck, they got me good. Damn, I spoke. I was hurting. They really did a number on me. I could only identify people by voice, and that person that talked about the sink sounded exactly like Dame Dash from Rockefeller Records. My favorite artists were with him and his label, and now he was talking to me. I felt like it was an interview or audition. What they call you? Dame asked. I responded. Rashim. Wow. That's deep. Dame responded. What's 467 backwards? What? I asked, still clearing the mace out my eyes. What is 467 backwards? He asked again. 764. I respond. Good. How about 3645? Dame asked. 5463. I respond. Good, your brain and fucked up could hear that ass whooping from here. You done put us all on lockdown. You got some huge balls to strike a CO all by yourself like that. Dame said. I, after getting my bearings, looked around the cell. I was in a cell with 2 bunks, a sink with mirror above it, and a table with seat. I started to hit the table and could hear different notes and tones. I played Lean On Me on an old metal desk. Oh, snap, life you know the words, another voice added. I started singing and realized it was my old voice. The voice that sounded great before puberty hit and took it. Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain. We all have sorrows, but if we are wise, we will know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me, I continued and could hear the inmates cheering. That was nice. How about you do that beat again but this time slow it down? Dame said. I then hit the notes. Slower this time, noticing the rhythm more. The time the vibration lasts when coming close to the next note, it sounded fuller. I quickly understood what was going on. I was feeling the music instead of just playing some music. I was gaining more energy. I felt like I had not been hurt or maced at all, so I started rapping. Really thinking you can hold a candle to me, let's see if you can be a MFMC. It's me young life when I'm flowing no weed. Now see I got the lead, I don't think you should speak. Crip walking to the beat, don't make me step on you sneaks. YAA girl was at the club and she game peak. Last week, she was with her girl Vanessa, came to the crib and left her draws on my dress. No pressure, counter any lyrical blow. Thinking you can handle me, we well hell no. See I'm starting to think that I should make a video to show you how to flow. Although, knowing Ema beast and bitch makes me feel good. Cut my ish triple platinum and yam ish triple wood. Cut my flow so hot that I think I drink ice. And you a John Doe in this game show called life.